GoToWebinar. Before we get started, I'm just going to run through quickly how to use the GoToWebinar technology so we can make sure that this presentation is interactive as possible. So first you should see the control panel pictured on your screen right now. If you don't, it may be because it's been minimized, and you can pull it back out by going to the Grab tab, which hides and shows the control panel. If you have a question at any time, you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon on the control panel, and I can unmute your line or I will send you a message. Another way to participate is through the question pane. You can type your questions in the question pane, and I can either read it to the group or respond privately. All of the panes on the control panel can be expanded or minimized by clicking on the plus or minus button at the top left of each pane. In the past, we have had some audio trouble, and if for some reason you're having difficulty being heard, you'll want to make sure that you're not muted on your personal phone and that you've entered the audio pin provided to you at the beginning of the call. If that doesn't seem to be working, we recommend signing out and logging back in again. And we will get started.
Great. Well, thank you, Melanie. And good afternoon to everyone. And thank you for joining us on your lunch break for this Leader College webinar. I'm Mary Harrell. I'm Associate Director of Policy and Programs here at Achieving the Dream. We're looking forward to sharing with you some of the learnings that we have had over the last year during our work on building middle school STEM pathways. And so we're looking forward to sharing that with you. And this work has been generously funded by the Helmsley Trust, and we've conducted it in partnership with Jobs for the Future. So we're really pleased to have one of the colleges that we've been working with and Jobs for the Future with us on the webinar today to share this work. Before we move into the content of this webinar, I wanted to introduce my colleagues who are from Achieving the Dream, who are here on the webinar with me. Carrie Henderson is Associate Director of Programs and Policy. And she also leads, as you know, the Leader College program here at Achieving the Dream. And Melanie Mulvey is the Assistant Director of Programs and is also another key staff person on our Leader College program. In terms of the agenda today, we're going to spend a few minutes going through some Achieving the Dream announcements. I want to recognize some of our Leader Colleges, and then we'll move into our presentation. We'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions and answers, and Melanie gave you some instructions about how you can either submit your questions via the question box or raise your hand, and we'll take your question over the phone line. And then we'll conclude and talk a little bit about the next Leader College webinar. So in terms of Achieving the Dream announcements, I wanted to let you all know, if you don't already, that registration for Dream 2015 is now open online. You can register online for the Institute as well as for the pre-Institute workshops. We've posted a tentative agenda on the website, and you can get hotel information there as well. We're going to be in Baltimore, and it's going to be February 17th through 20th, and I hope all of you will be able to join us for that and to bring teams from your college, so bring your leaders and your faculty and staff. We anticipate this is going to be a great institute and hope that you all will be part of it. If you have submitted a proposal to present at DREAM, you'll be hearing back before Thanksgiving as to whether your proposal has been accepted or not. So stay tuned for more information on that. We also, as you know, have a Technology Solutions webinar series. And this is a webinar series that happens throughout the year, and it's an opportunity for you to talk with your peers about the experiences you've had of implementing particular technology solutions on your campus. So our next webinar in this series is going to be Wednesday, November 12th at 12:30 to 1:15, the same time slot we do our Leader Colleges. And it'll focus on the Pathway to Leadership Certificate, 7 Habits for College Students Succeeding in College and Life. And we'll be hearing from Alamo Colleges and Franklin Covey. So you can find the registration for this on our website, and we hope to see you there. And the last announcement I wanted to make is that in between Halloween and Thanksgiving is the lovely time to submit your data to ATD on the 5 performance measures that all of the colleges in our network track. So I encourage you to submit your 2013-2014 data to the ATD database. The deadline is November 15th, and once your data files have been approved, you'll be able to have access to the updated institutional data summary reports for your institutions. And finally, I wanted to recognize and congratulate our leader colleges. Achieving the Dream is very pleased to announce that 42 Achieving the Dream institutions in 25 states were awarded the Trade Adjustment Assistant Community College and Career Training, or TACT grants, and 19 of those recipients were leader colleges. So congratulations to all of you. We look forward to you sharing your learnings from this work with the network over the coming years. And now I would like to turn to our main presentation for the day. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the work that we have been doing through the Helmsley Trust, and then I'm going to ask my colleagues here, Joe Wagner and Gretchen Schmidt, to please weigh in with us on doing a deep dive into the work we're doing around the STEM collaboratives, as well as the work we've been doing to develop a middle skill STEM policy framework. Before I move into the presentation, I want to introduce Joe and Gretchen. Joe has an extensive history with the numerous Greater Cleveland Akron colleges, and he currently serves as the college-wide IT program manager at Cuyahoga Community College. Prior to this role, he was the director of quality assurance at Cuyahoga. And he began his college experience as a student at Cuyahoga Community College, otherwise known as Tri-C, and eventually earned the privilege of teaching a variety of business courses at Tri-C. And it's this personal and professional experience that sparked his passion for helping others through the variety of academic and non-academic programs offered at Cuyahoga Community College. And Gretchen Schmidt is JFS, or Jobs for the Future's program director for their post-secondary state policy team, which manages the policy activities for Achieving the Dream, the Student Success Center Network, and Completion by Design. And before JFF, she spent 5 years in the Virginia Community College system, first as the Educational Policy Director, and then as Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Services. She's also served on the staff of state college boards in Virginia and Arizona and has taught college courses in both states. So before I turn it over to Joe and Gretchen, I just wanted to provide a brief overview of our work that we've been doing over the last year that has focused on middle skill STEM. And we're responding, the reason we began this work is to really respond to three opportunities and challenges that we saw out there. And all of these are familiar to you. One is the high percentage of STEM majors who drop out or switch to different major. This has been a persistent issue within higher education over the course of many, many years. It has impacted at the K-12 level, the teaching force at the K-12 level, and for our purposes today, we've really looked at the impact it's had on the workforce. And so we wanted to think about more deeply with the colleges and with our state policy partners about how we can improve persistence and completion on these STEM pathways. The second, the opportunity that we saw out there was really the availability of the STEM jobs that require less than a bachelor's degree. There has been research coming out of the Brookings Institute and other places that's showing that there are available jobs in the market that require less than a bachelor's degree. And these are the middle skill STEM jobs and the pathways that we're focusing on. And so given the resources that community colleges have, we saw this as a really important opportunity that we needed to leverage and to think more deeply about how we can support colleges and work with colleges to create and strengthen these middle skill STEM pathways. And finally, as you know, the focus of the colleges and the ATD and JFF networks on strengthening the pathways. This has been a long time focus in our networks to really think about how we can strengthen the on-ramps onto pathways, help students more quickly identify the pathways that fit their goals and their desires, their life desires. And so this was sort of the third leg of the reason why we are doing this work. And so we thought, in terms of how we would shape this work, we wanted to have a project that would be focused on the ground and working with the institutions around building these pathways. But we thought just as important as this on-the-ground work with the institutions was also focusing on creating supportive STEM state policy environments so that it could really leverage what the colleges are doing, scale up this work across the states. And so this has been a twofold approach that we've had. And we were thrilled to receive support from the Helmsley Trust to support this work. And this was a one-year project, and we were thrilled that we were just notified that we're doing another round of work with them through a 3-year grant to continue this work. So what Joe is going to be talking to you about is the work they're doing at Tri-C to build and implement the STEM regional collaboratives. This was one strategy that we wanted to use in our work. In terms of when we talk about the STEM regional collaboratives, and Gretchen's going to go into more details about this, but the structure of it is working with the colleges to help them use labor market information, or LMI, to really identify the local middle skill STEM job market needs in their communities. So helping them use that, get access to that information and use that to inform the types of pathways they're going to build. The second then is working with the college through this collaborative to create, or in many cases some of these pathways existed, and to help strengthen these middle skill STEM pathways to respond to those job market needs. A third piece, and a large piece of this, is finding ways to engage industry, community partners, P12 partners, state leads, and designing and supporting these pathways. And so how do we bring all of these stakeholders together to play roles in supporting the students and the college in creating these pathways? And the final piece of this work is working with the colleges to really track the progress of how institutional capacity has changed through this work, and most importantly, following student success. So are we seeing an impact in student persistence and completion? The second piece of our work, as I said, was really around the state policy work and leveraging the work that we do with the Post-Secondary State Policy Network, which Jobs for the Future manages. And there are 12 states within that network. We focused on working with 7 of the states within PSTN, and really working with them to promote strong state policy that support the creation of these middle skill STEM pathways. Often there is work underway in the states, and so how we can help them learn from each other to adopt policies that really support the building of these pathways, and then providing the states the technical assistance and support of their work for this. This fall, we were pleased to release 2 publications. One, the first one that you see on your screen on the left-hand side, is the Middle Skill STEM State Policy Framework, which Gretchen is going to talk with us about today. And the second is around the lessons learned from our first year of working with the STEM Regional Collaborative. So I'd like to ask now, Joe, to turn this over to you to walk us through the work you have been doing at Tri-C in terms of building the collaborative and some of the lessons you've learned.
Thank you very much, Mary, and good afternoon, everyone. Mary Melly, I appreciate the invitation to speak on behalf of Tri-C and all the great work we've been doing here. So with that being said, just a little background on Tri-C. Cuyahoga Community College is Ohio's oldest and largest community college. We're centered in pretty much Cleveland, Ohio, so that's the county we reside in. And to share how it's really been a collaborative effort, on the next screen you'll see that Tri-C's location is there, but it's really started out with the leadership here at Tri-C, from our president all the way down to provost. The leadership's pretty much formed teams to put everyone together within Tri-C. And then from there, we're also including, obviously, our Ohio Board of Regents, Cheryl Hay, the Deputy Chancellor, and working with the Ohio Association of Community Colleges, Dr. Michael Snyder, him as well. So the great work that we do here in the greater Cleveland area is essentially going to be shared throughout the state, throughout Columbus, throughout the nation, using our Ohio ACC. So a lot of it has to do with the leadership here, and then obviously our external partners are critical as well. So with that foundation, I want to share with you some of the programs we've developed. Tri-C's taken a little bit of a unique route in the fact that we focused more on the manufacturing sector. In the greater Cleveland area, we have historically and continue to be a very big manufacturer. So our external partners have needs, and we're working closely with them. We recognize those. On the screen before you now, after all these animations are done, you see 3 different paths. The first one at the very top is CNC, Computer Numerical Control path. So we have individuals that come to our open access, obtain their 1-year certificate, and then from there they have a couple options available. They can go into an apprenticeship program, become a journeyman within a union environment, or they can go directly for employment with that 1-year certificate. The second one in the middle is actually a non-credit program, and it's a great collaborative effort that we have with SwageLock. Swagelok is a manufacturer that develops fluid systems, products, assemblies. They're headquartered here in the greater Cleveland area, about a $1.8 billion privately held firm. And they have a consistent need for CNC operators. So they approached us and said, how can we help them out? So what we do is we have a Right Skills Now program. And with that Right Skills Now program, Swagelok actually interviews the students prior to entering the program. They do a skills test, they assess them, and then they enter the program and they go through, they obtain their CNC operations certificate. They can obtain a third-party certificate, the NIM certification as well if they like. And then at the end of the program, we have a placement rate with Swagelok of about 65%. So the majority of our students actually end up completing their internship with Swagelok and then actually being extended a position there. And we work with the other 35% with the other manufacturers in the area as well. So that's been a very successful program for many individuals going through. And then finally, we have a variety of workforce programs that are STEM focused, and we focus on taking the workforce or the non-credit component and transferring it over to our academic side, the STEM area, to obtain credits and hopefully a credential of one form or another, and certainly employment being a key component there as well. So those are really the three main pathways we have. When it comes to recruiting our students, as far as getting them in the program, we pretty much redesigned the intake process, kind of focused it more on the student-centric. We have an initiative here, One Door, Many Options. So essentially what that's saying is, as you enter the college, depending on, I guess historically, depending on who you spoke with, you might go to different avenues. One of the biggest challenges with the One Door, Many Options is really internally educating our individuals to share all the different opportunities we have within the college. So we're really focused on that in very large part. In addition, we have collaborative marketing efforts. Our institution, we have 4 campuses, and then we have the division of the workforce and the academic. So we have, like many campuses, we have our own silos, if you would. We're making a very conscious effort to work much more collaboratively than we've done in the past with our workforce and our academic side. Both sides of the house, if you would, recognizing the merits for each side and how we can really serve our students best. And then finally, our external partners. I have referrals on the slide before you. As I mentioned, Swagelok, the program we work with them, they actually bring us students because through their recruiting process for employees, they'll come through the recruitment process and then they'll say, go to Tri-C and go through this program. And so we're working very closely with our external partners to recruit the proper students to go through the program. And the next slide, I think, is my last slide I want to share with you guys. It's the student support. We're making a little more effort in supporting our students. Essentially, we have DegreeWorks technology, which allows us to assess where they're at, their course map, and map out their future. So they pretty much, to quote Stephen Covey here, begin with the end in mind. So they know exactly where their course is, and they're ensuring they're taking the right coursework to get there and complete successfully. In addition, we have our mandatory new student orientation, where we're introducing students to the different programs we have available. As a new student, many of the students, like myself 20-some years ago, aren't exactly clear as to what direction they want to go. So we certainly want to educate them with that. And then this fall, we implement our first-year experience course, where we're bringing in first-year students from high school and going through the variety of support services we have here as a community college, really emphasizing all the different resources we have available to them. The final point is, once again, collaborative marketing efforts. With workforce and academic, what we're trying to do is we're striving to put together marketing pieces, actual pieces that we can use to illustrate the collaborative effort of workforce and the academic side of the house, if you would. It seems as though for many years the workforce side was not quite as prominent as it is now, and it's certainly coming to the forefront. So we're working very well together in doing that. And then once again, external partners. One of our biggest push, especially on our advisory committees, is experiential learning opportunities for our students, internships, co-ops, job shadowing, and then, of course, placement opportunities as well. So we're really trying to focus on serving our students from the very beginning to the very end, getting them launched into their careers. And I think that's what I have pretty much here for Tri-C. I'll turn it back to Mary at this point.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you and Tri-C for being part of this project. So it's been really impressive. These collaboratives just got off the ground earlier this year. So in a matter of months, as you all heard, the interventions have been put in place and put in place at scale. It's just really impressive. So Gretchen, I'd like to turn it over to you to walk us through the work we've been doing around developing a middle skill STEM state policy framework. Great.
Thanks so much, Mary, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. I want to say to begin with that JFF developed this STEM policy framework in very close collaboration with the colleges that we're working with on this initiative and our partners at Achieving the Dream. This STEM policy framework came out of a year of work on the college campuses about building these regional collaboratives that Joe discussed, the Tri-C collaborative just a few moments ago, and I'll talk about the others. And at the same time, at these meetings that ATD and JFF convened, the state partners were also in the room. And so as we developed the framework from the convenings and the work on the ground, then we vetted it back with the colleges so that the colleges had an opportunity to provide input and make changes so that what we were recommending from a state policy perspective both accelerated and supported the work that was going on the ground. Our work at JFF really does focus on that intersection of policy and practice. So it's really important for us in this initiative and all our initiatives to be in very close contact with the college work and what state policy infrastructures they need in order to successfully implement the innovation or the reform on the ground. And so I wanted to make certain that you knew that there was direct college input on this policy framework that we're about to share. If you can advance the slide, that would be great. So as Mary said in the beginning of the introduction, that this work stemmed from a Brookings Institution report called The Hidden STEM Economy. Jonathan Rothwell, the author of that report, presented at our state policy meeting almost 2 years ago and talked about the hidden STEM economy and the role that middle-skilled STEM positions play in the economy, and that how these positions do not require a bachelor's degree but often require certificates or diplomas or associate degrees to get high-skilled, high-wage, high-paying jobs for students directly out of the programs. Allied health, advanced manufacturing are the ones that are brought up most, but there's a wide-ranging content areas for these middle-skill STEM jobs. And so and I know that much of your CACT work is focused on these STEM positions and how to get students into STEM pathways and into high-paying, high-wage jobs as efficiently and effectively as we can. So these jobs pay on average $53,000 a year, which is 10% more than jobs with comparable education requirements. And they also build into transfer pathways in disciplines like engineering and allied health programs, which significantly impacts students' overall opportunities in the field, even if they stop out coming back into a higher degree offering. How we build pathways into those that give students points where they can jump out and jump back in when they're able. If you can advance the slide, please, that'd be great. And so, as Mary said, I'll talk just a bit about, in a little bit more detail, about what this looked like on the ground. So the planning grant for the first year was building regional STEM collaboratives on the ground in 3 states. The states were Ohio, Florida, and Connecticut. The colleges that participated were Norwalk Community College in Connecticut, Tri-C in Ohio, and Miami-Dade in Florida. And so we worked directly with both the colleges and the state partners to develop a STEM regional collaborative in a discipline of their choice to develop a clear and efficient structured pathway for students into middle-skilled STEM careers. And this work, as it said on the previous slide, I'm sorry, I'm going out of order of the slides. I apologize for poor Melanie, who's trying to keep track of me, which is a difficult task. So This work also feeds into the work that is being done around structured pathways more broadly in the field, work around from completion by design and the work from the guided pathways to success initiatives, and that we are not just building efficient pathways into these middle skilled positions, but we're trying to build pathways for students into those positions and then through those positions into transfer degree programs or opportunities to advance student skills beyond that point. So it is creating roadmaps for students, on-ramps into these programs of study. So as Joe mentioned, that students know in their intake what these programs are, what it means for them, what the jobs look like, the availability of the jobs in the region, how much those jobs pay, and what the pathway to advanced career path in that degree program looks like. And so, in that, they're also encouraging clear paths for students and support and feedback as students move through the pathway so that they see their progress towards their academic and career goals. And so this is all embedded in the work of these regional collaboratives and then rolled up into the state policy framework that I'm about to share. And Melanie, can you go forward 2 slides, please? So Mary, in the beginning, showed the cover of the STEM framework, and she will send it out after the webinar so that you can review it and provide feedback. This is a work in progress. We are going to collect the feedback from you all and others in the field as we expand this work. And we hope that this is a dynamic document that will build and grow as we do more work on the ground and bring more colleges within the states into the work. And we get feedback from you in the field, even those that are not working on this directly on this grant, but are working on TACT grants and other STEM-specific initiatives, so that we have a robust, applicable framework across the field. So the STEM framework focuses on 5 areas: creating pathways to careers so that there is alignment. This is the employer engagement and alignment piece of the framework, so that the employers are at the table and there is a collective conversation about the employer needs and the gaps in the field and the number of positions that are available and what it takes for a student, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that a student needs in order to be to qualify for a position in that field. Open doors to STEM. There has been a great deal of conversation in the last year in the STEM regional collaboratives about math preparation. What can be done in developmental education that creates on-roads and on-ramps for students into STEM careers, and as we create alternate math pathways for students, if students are taking statistics or quantitative reasoning pathways, then how then do we also bridge those students into STEM pathways if they make a decision after being successful in an alternate math pathway? How do we open the opportunity for those students then to transition into STEM? So there's been a great deal of conversation, and we've been working with Amy Getz at the Dana Center on this very closely. And so I think that will continue to be a focus of the work. Focusing on student completion and creating models that lead to degree attainment. Making informed decisions. This is about data collection and data transparency and being able to disaggregate data across institutions at the program level and what that means for students and students advising and student decision making about careers. And then providing incentives for student success. How can we encourage innovation at the student level and the institutional level and the workforce level? How can we incent employers to be more engaged in the educational pipeline? And as we drill down in these areas, we talk about things that about effective use of labor market information, both Bureau of Labor Statistics data, but also real-time labor market information, so that colleges are making decisions about programs, whether it be new programs or adjusting programs that are based on the labor market. There's been a great deal of discussion about organizing major colleges around meta majors or career clusters. Miami-Dade is doing that as part of their implementation of Senate Bill 1720 in Florida. But what does that look like on the ground? What pieces of the Florida legislation and implementation could be scaled across other institutions and in other states? And what are the practices around that that are going to have impact on students as they enter into the institutions? Ensuring transparency about student outcome data, particularly around programs. And there's a conversation about providing tax breaks and incentives for both STEM graduates if they stay and work in a state, but also institutions who hire students out of these STEM pathways. And so the document is actually fairly long and comprehensive. We couldn't cover all the pieces and parts of it, but we wanted to give you an overview of the areas that we highlighted and that we felt were the framing, the structure for policy making around accelerating middle skill STEM pathways. And so, as I said, Mary will send this out. If you want to go to the next slide, that would be great. So the next steps is that, as Mary said at the beginning of the webinar, that we are very pleased to have just been awarded a grant from the Helmsley Foundation to continue this work and expand this work. The expectations in the grant is that we will bring on other regional collaboratives within the state, so additional colleges and their regional workforce partners into the work so that we expand the conversation to more colleges on the ground, but also expanding the state policy work at the systems and state level to help accelerate and implement this, particularly around the areas highlighted in the framework. We will continue documenting progress and releasing briefs and publications into the field so that this model can be used and replicated in other places. And we will be using an assessment instrument to advance the state's progress towards their work plan goals as outlined in the framework in the document. And I can give you an example about outside of Ohio, because Joe talked about Ohio and Connecticut, about how we're leveraging and bringing together the partners in the work, both the work on the ground and the work at the system level, to give you an idea of how this is working. Connecticut was also just funded with a Kresge Foundation Student Success Center grant, and they also have 2 existing TACT grants, one in advanced manufacturing that was just awarded and one in healthcare that was awarded 2 years ago. So we have brought all those partners to the table as part of the work of Norwalk Community College's STEM regional work to see how we can use both the funding and the voice in the vehicle of the Student Success Center to aggregate the work of the TACT grants, the work of Norwalk, and the work of the additional colleges that we bring on to leverage that work across multiple institutions in more than one discipline, and then rise that up to a collective conversation across all of the community colleges in the state of Connecticut. So it is at that intersection between the college work and the state policy conversation that we're trying to leverage these the learnings from these STEM regional collaboratives. And so with that, Mary, I will turn it over to you for questions or comments, and or if you'd like to fill in anything that you want to highlight that I or Joe that I may have forgotten in the overview of the slides.
Great. Thank you so much, Gretchen. So thank you for providing that overview. We've had a couple questions come in, and so I wanted to go through those, and we promise to have you out by 1:15 so that you can either go enjoy your lunch or move on with the rest of your day. So, Joe, one question we received was around the work that you're doing at Tri-C, and the question is really around how did Tri-C move so quickly to get these interventions off the ground? So if you could talk a little bit about the capacities and maybe some of the strategies you all used to really bring some of the interventions, with the orientation, the first-year experience, bringing together the partners. Just talk through that a little bit more with us.
Okay. Under Dr. Miles, our provost leadership, I think essentially she recognized that a lot of these themes are very common themes that we've done a lot over the years with Achieving the Dream, and a lot of these things are in progress. So what I believe she ended up doing with her guidance was we basically capitalized on a lot of the initiatives that we already had underway. For example, the need with SwageLock. I mean, that is not anything brand new to us. SwageLock is a dominant employer in our industry here in our geographic area. And we recognized that need, so we were working with them to try and help them with that need, and we saw this as a great opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone. And another example is the FYE, the first year experience. We know that's not a new thing in the industry. That's been going on for years. We also geared up, a year and a half ago, we decided we were going to do that for all incoming freshmen into our community college, much broader than many other institutions have done. But once again, that was kind of in the pipeline. So a lot of these things kind of came together because of a variety of different initiatives, and we were able to kind of put them all together and collaborate to form this specific initiative. So that's how I think that led a lot to how quickly we were up and running, and even the metrics we have in our proposed in our plan. And we have a substantial amount of completers that we're very confident we will complete, just given our historical experience with the CNC programs. Okay.
Great, thank you. So Gretchen, we had a question come in around the framework. And the question is really about, so of those 5 buckets of recommendations that we have in the framework, where do you think states have the most traction right now? Which one have they been doing the best on? And is there a particular set of recommendations where you think states have either been remiss or just not focused on that we really need to be working with them on over the next couple of years?
Thanks, Mary. I think that we have made such incredible progress around the data and transparency of systems data, and looking at data and asking different research questions and making informed decisions. I think more and more states are being connected to Bureau of Labor Statistics data and are using UI data to track where students are going. Also using clearinghouse data to see which students are going out of state for transfer institutions. I think that the use of real-time labor market data is very new and something that colleges are exploring, and that systemically few states are using, and that is something that in an area we can beef up. I think that there's been so much work done around developmental education and developmental ed reform and alternate math pathways. I think that we have to make sure that we're not closing all students out of the STEM pathway by implementing statistics and quantitative reasoning pathways. And I think the area that we collectively on the policy side of things is that we need to talk about incentives in a different way. We very often see policy as a stick and not a means for providing incentives for behavior, whether it's institutional incentives or student incentives or even incentives for workforce partners to partner in a robust way with our institutions. And so I think that that work around incentives is an area where that we can make much more progress moving forward collectively as a field.
Great, thank you very much. And I wanted to let the participants on the webinar know too that Achieving the Dream and Jobs for the Future will have a publication coming out before Christmas on recommendations for how states can help colleges in using real-time labor market information. So that will be coming out shortly, and so we're really looking forward to to that release and to utilizing that in the work that we've been doing through the Helmsley Trust and other places as well. I see that we're reaching the end of our time for the webinar, so I want to thank Joe and Gretchen for being part of this and sharing the work that you all have been doing over the last several months, and we're really looking forward to 3 more years of this work with you. And in terms of the next Leader College webinar, you will see that in honor of the holidays and the end of the semester, we will not be having a Leader College webinar in December, but in January we're going to be putting on our psychology hats, and we'll be having a webinar on the Gestalt approach to Latino retention and academic success. We'll hear from Northern Essex Community College, and that will be on January 22nd. Registration is open for that, so I encourage you to sign up now for that webinar. And I'm going to turn the webinar over to Melanie for just a minute to do the poll that we do at the end of every Leader College webinar to let us know about your thoughts on this webinar. Melanie?
Okay, great. So on your screens you should see a poll. It is multiple choice. And if you could please just check all of the statements that you agree with. And so we will give you about 30 seconds to make your selection. It's very helpful for us in understanding what topics and how the format is doing and how much you're enjoying these webinars so that we can craft future learning events. So we have about 60% in. Okay. And just all right, and we're going to close it now. Great. Thank you all so much, and I will pass it back to Mary.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you all for being part of the webinar today. We are looking forward to the next webinar in January. And again, I encourage you to register for DREAM if you haven't already. We're looking forward to seeing you there as well. So all the best for a good rest of the afternoon and good rest of the week. And we will be in touch in the coming weeks. Take care.